Hello, everybody out there. A little bit of technical difficulty again. It seems like when Jeremy's going to be our featured guest for this show, we kind of run into some things. But, we're Marines, so we will overcome and adapt, and we'll get it figured out. Right, Jeremy?
Absolutely correct.
So let's start this thing again. I'm Dave Brown. I'm the host of the Victor Tango Show, and I want to thank Brandon Croucher and Delight CBD Company for sponsoring this show and putting this channel together. There's lots of good programs, podcasts that are on the Delight Cafe Network on YouTube. Lots of mindfulness, lots of positivity. Also swing on over there and you'll be able to see Brandon Croucher and Ilsa on there. Ilsa's our friend from the country of Africa. And so she lives in South Africa and she loves to watch the show and she loves to have conversations and be a part of the other ones. Oh, I see that another guy here is wanting to say hello. This is Fernando. Fernando, how we doing, buddy? Good to see you. All right, Jeremy, you're the guest of honor today. So why don't we do this? Why don't we start by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. First off, I want to start off by just saying thanks for having me on Victor Tango today, Dave. It's an honor to be able to be out here and kind of give the word on the services that we at Fishing with Vets provide. Again, like Dave said, my name is Jeremy Colsen. I'm the president of Fishing with Vets. We started our organization about 7 years ago. Through that time, we've taken out roughly 700 to 800 veterans on weekend-long trips. That will consist of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We pay for their lodging, we pay for their food, all their fishing expenses are paid for. Basically, that veteran just needs to show up to our trip and come with a fishing license and be ready to fish. Something a little bit about myself. I joined the Marine Corps in 1994. When I was in high school, I probably wasn't the greatest student in the world. I shouldn't even say probably. I was not a good student. My mind was just not there. So the best way for me to kind of get on track and grow a little bit was to join the Marine Corps. My stepdad was a huge influence in this for me. He was a Navy Vietnam veteran. So he worked closely with Marines. And, being at my younger age, I was pretty athletic, played football, played baseball, played hockey, did all that fun stuff. So he felt the Marine Corps is the direction for me to go into. So I joined in 1994, went boot camp, all that fun stuff, did my combat training, went in to be an engineer, did some time. I did a CAX while I was an engineer, and then got sent to the marksmanship training unit, being a rifle expert shooter. That was a good opportunity for me to do. Went there and had a lot of fun in that type of situation, being that marksmanship training unit. One thing I really enjoyed a lot about being in that position was actually the educational aspect of it. It was really fun watching some shooters who improved, got better, or some of those shooters that were struggling to qualify on the rifle range, and to get them to qualify and seeing how excited they are to qualify, which, Dave, in the Marine Corps, qualifying on the rifle range is, you don't qualify on the rifle range, you're no longer, they're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
So that was a huge thing.
Well, it's because every Marine's a rifleman at the beginning. So if you can't qualify with the rifle, there's no reason for you to stay. Exactly.
And there are people that struggle with it. And the irony of it is it's usually pre-qual day and they shoot great, and then qualification day comes and they get the jitters and they get a little nervous, they get antsy. So you got to throw a cover at them every once in a while to get them to calm down, or get them after one firing episode and just be like, hey, relax, breathe. It's just, today is no different than yesterday. It's counting now. So that was some of the joys I got out of it. For me personally, the Marine Corps gave me a lot of cool experiences, especially being with the marksmanship training unit. I got to do some cold weather survival up in Yosemite, which is something I would never volunteer to do again in my life. It was terrible. But again, we got through it. it's something you do. You get to earn a little bit of respect for yourself to be able to go through something like that. Just awesome opportunities. Got to go overseas a couple times with Saudi Arabia. Of course, the general normal Okinawa overseas duty station that we have to do. I did that as well. So pretty. It was. Unfortunately, the unfortunate thing about being with the marksmanship training unit is I really wanted to get on an expeditionary unit, but being in a training element, they were not so willing to let me go on that. So my life in the Marine Corps is kind of, I don't want to say boring, but like I said, the trip to Saudi Arabia was pretty cool. Doing the CACs, doing the cold weather survival stuff, and I think one of the things I enjoyed the most about being in the MTU, and we didn't have range details going. Kind of one of our little niches that we picked up throughout Camp Pendleton was being an OPT-4 to other battalions, other companies that were out in the field. So we'd get calls up, and if we had a week off, that's what our job was. We'd go out there and attack Marine Corps forces, which was super fun. We got to role play a lot. Unfortunately, one thing you'll notice about me, I smile a lot, and I still remember this to this day. My code name in the OPT-4 was Sergeant Smiles a Lot.
Sergeant Smiles a lot.
Yeah, remember we got taken hostage and to do POW training type of stuff.
Yep.
That's what I would go by. We actually had like a little fake card that was R&D and everything, so it was pretty fun. We'd say things that we didn't really want certain staff NCOs and commissioned officers to know who we really were in the world.
Yep. Right.
Playing a role, of course, not being disrespectful, but just having fun with them.
Exactly.
Hey, yeah, that was some of the best.
Ilsa's got a question for you. Why did you specifically choose fishing as a leisure sport?
Being in Minnesota, I grew up with it. I didn't do it as hardcore as I do now. But I was the kid that on Sunday morning, the Star and Tribune, I don't know if anybody will remember this. This was decades ago. The Star and Tribune would report on the back page of the sports section of all the fish that were caught that week. And I would literally sit there and study that and try to figure out what lakes I wanted to go to, where I could catch this type of, big walleyes, big crappies, et cetera, et cetera. For me, especially after getting out of the military, it's relaxing to me. I feel good being out in nature. I love fishing. It's the water. It's everything. It's the struggle that you can have out there fishing. Some days you have great days fishing. Other days you have terrible fishing. And I think that's what gives my drive, keeps me going. It's an activity that can definitely keep you humbled, but at the same time is extremely rewarding when you have good success in it.
Yeah. Let me tell the story of how we met. I met Jeremy through a friend of mine that lives about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours from the cities in Osakis, Minnesota. And my son had a bass tournament on Osakis Lake. And I had asked my buddy if he could find a guide for that lake for my son and I to ride along with and get some intel on the lake and some spots and give us some pointers on how to catch bass and the weather we were having. And because it was upper 80s, lower 90s at that point, and bass were not around very, very plentiful anyways where we tried to find them. But so through that, I got connected with Jeremy, and we're texting back and forth about a time and when to meet. And he showed up on the boat, and my kid and I were on there, and we're floating around, and we just started to talk, and like people do, and we got on the conversation about veterans and that I was in the Marine Corps, and then he was in the Marine Corps, and then it's like two brothers from another mother, and then we just kind of hit it off. But the thing that really impressed me about Jeremy is the love of fishing and the love of the outdoors and the love he has to teach somebody new of new techniques, new intel on a lake, all of that type of stuff. He took my son and had a conversation for, what was it, about 2.5 hours on the boat. Just him and my son just pretty much did all the talking back and forth and fished together. And I just got to sit there and watch. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. So, but I just wanted to throw that in there, Jeremy, so people knew how we met and how we got together. And then I found you told me about Fishing with Vets and told me about the organization, and kind of fell in love with that conversation of, I wanted to pursue this further and take a look at that. So why don't we get back to your conversation that you were going into about your military experience. So what were the years that you were in the Marine Corps?
94 to 98.
Okay. And 1994 to 98. And then you came home for a while?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't have enough of it. I came home for actually quite a while. So basically, kind of what happened, short story, I got out of the Marine Corps. I went and got my degree, and I had a job. I worked a job, and in 2010, I had a calling, actually, again, to join the National Guard. So I did that. I served from 2010 to 2013 in the Minnesota National Guard. That's an interesting story in itself. I joined to go to OCS school, and I ended up tearing my shoulder up pretty badly, and had to get operated on, all that good stuff, a lot of rehabilitation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I basically did the rest of my tour, enlisted in my host company, which would have been the Seaburn Company down in Northfield. I can't remember exactly what the numbers are, the 173rd Seaburn Company, I believe. But it was down in Northfield. A lot of military stuff in between me being in OCS to going back to my host company. But anyway, it was good. We didn't deploy. Our mission was really to be on standby for any type of hazardous material. And I apologize, I said CBURN for a lot of people that may not know. CBURN basically is an acronym for chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear unit. So basically our intention is to test, see if there's any of those type of weapons of mass destructions or any type of hazardous material type of situation out there. Contain it, detain it, all that good stuff. So basically our mission was to stay by the state side and support the state in any type of hazardous material type of incident. And during the 3 years I was in, I never got called up to do any type of state assistance or anything to the sort. So again, pretty interesting unit. Your job, your mission is basically to go hunt down any type of weapon of mass destruction. And I don't know, it's pretty interesting. I thought it was kind of crazy, actually. I'm more the person that's like, just put me in the infantry and let's go. Right. Not go try to look for things that are terrible.
Let it come find you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unwillingly too. And the joke was going into OCS, they said that I was going to be a part of ordnance, and I was like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, do you know what EOD is? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, that's what you're going to do. And I was like, well, can you put me in the infantry instead? And they're like, are you crazy? I'm like, no. And like, crazy people knowingly walk up to a bomb and dismantle it.
Right.
Me personally, I just rather not know. So that was kind of the funny story of kind of my whole OCS experience. And I kid you not, to this day, I can still remember the sergeant's face looking at me just like, huh? You'd rather go in the infantry than EOD? I'm like, yes, I would. So,
yeah, they thought you were completely nuts for saying that.
Yeah. I ran around with EOD a couple times when I was in the Marine Corps, and them gentlemen and gals, they're a different breed of people, and that's not me.
What makes fishing better for vets compared to other sports?
Oh man, I don't know if it's necessarily a better thing. I think so much reflects on the individual. Every veteran is not necessarily an outdoorsy type of person. We as an organization, we've taken out a lot of veterans that have hardly ever fished in their life. And they just wanted to go for the experience and just have a relaxing weekend. Essentially, for me personally, what I can say is I've always loved the water as a kid. I've always been infatuated with water. I loved swimming. When I was in California, I surfed, I boogie boarded, I snorkeled. Water's just been kind of a staple of my life, and I've always enjoyed it. I always bring up sometimes when I'm out fishing with buddies and stuff, and it's kind of that perfect day where there's a little bit of waves and there's a little bit of wind, but it kind of makes that splashing sound up against your boat. To me, that's what's relaxing to me. Sorry, my dog just probably realized my wife got home. But yeah, it's a challenge. And the best thing about it is a challenge. You have your ups and your downs during your day. But at the end of the day, I would be out on the lake every day if I could have it my way. It's just peaceful to me. For veterans, I think the best thing is it's really kind of a low impact type of thing. It's pretty casual. You can literally go out, you can sit on a fishing boat and have a conversation just like we did, Dave. Yep. Have a good time and catch fish. I think if veterans can go out with one another or go out with another organization like what we have, the camaraderie is the biggest thing. That's the one thing that we get from everybody. We're fortunate enough. We go to some pretty spectacular fishing spots, Lake of the Woods being one of them. That was our last trip. Every veteran went home with their limit of walleyes and saugers. There was talk in between 70 to 90 fish being boated in every boat. So these guys and gals went out there and caught a lot of fish. They had a lot of fun. The biggest thing that I got from everybody afterwards, though, was it was great being out with other veterans and fishing with them. And then having our dinner afterwards where everybody's together and everybody's talking. To me, that's the biggest thing. That's the highlight of my day. I love it. We have these guys and gals come up for the weekend. And Fridays, everybody's kind of hanging around and talking a little bit, but there's some bashfulness that's happening. But it comes Saturday, it's a whole totally different story. People are, talking fish sizes and then military and branches. We start getting into that jargon.
Oh yeah, talking some of that too.
Yep, exactly.
Everybody be on notice. The birthday's coming, so all you people can start making your excuses as why you didn't join the Marine Corps, because our birthday's coming. It's coming. Ilsa wants to know what's the biggest fish that was caught on one of your trips, and how much did it weigh?
Ooh. I would have to believe it would have been Lake Mille Lacs 3 years ago, and that would have been a 52-inch muskie caught on walleye here.
Nice.
Yep, that would be the biggest. I'm really trying to think. Yeah, that would be the biggest is 51-inch muskie. That was caught by one of our guides. However, one I can say is a veteran up on Lake of the Woods 3 years ago caught a 31-inch walleye that weighed, I think, 13 pounds. So that would have been the biggest one. And I'll go back. I apologize. The 51-inch muskie probably would have weighed close to 45 pounds, I would think. So pretty big fish.
Yep. Tell people what your wife does for a living.
She is a general surgeon. So she works at the VA, and her full-time job right now is at Glencoe. So she does some part-time work with the VA as well. She's actually sitting here right next to me. She still does some tele-ICU work with the VA with general surgery, critical care stuff. I was actually kind of super proud when we were dating before she started working. I was pretty excited when she actually accepted the position at the VA, and to just know that we got good hands in that hospital helping people. And that was pretty cool. And then, seeing her come back home and having joy and helping veterans, especially with some of the stuff that she did, a lot of World War II, Korean, Vietnam vets that she's helped. So, it's pretty cool.
Yep. Ilsa, you don't know what walleye fishing is? Well, I suppose you don't live on this continent, but walleye fishing, walleye is probably the best tasting fish in the nation. And it's a lot of fun to catch. It depends on where you live in the country for walleye fishing. But it's very tasty. It's a lot of fun to fish for. They fight a little bit when you try to get them in the boat. It's pretty exciting when they bite and when they're on. There's some great lakes for them here in Minnesota because we're the land of 10,000 lakes, and there's even close by ones like Devil's Lake, North Dakota, where they have just a massive amounts of walleye and sauger in them, and it's a great fish to eat. So, and they don't get too big for a fish. So,
right,
just so you know what they are. And they put up a hell of a fight, like Brian said. They sure do. It's like, bass put up a hell of a fight too. So that's a lot of fun. Sometimes you have to come over here, Ilsa, so that you can give it a try and see what it's like. There is Jaybird put up Wikipedia on an explanation what the walleye is as well. So out of all your fishing trips that you've gone on since you've been doing, first let's talk about how long has Fishing with Vets been around.
It's been around for 7 years, probably a little bit more than that, just because we did some incorporations to become a actual nonprofit organization. So I think we're in between 7 and 8 years. It's probably like 7.5 or so. We haven't been around for a long time, but we've definitely been around long enough to keep growing and to keep improving our mission. We started out as kind of an open boat seat forum on Facebook for veterans. So basically we'd have somebody post on Fishing with Vets page and say, hey, I have an open seat. I'm willing to take a veteran out fishing on this lake, this lake, this lake. Yeah. And essentially what happened is people started following this and seeing this. And then we actually started getting professional guides come in and say, I'll take a veteran +1 out fishing. So we started doing that, and people are starting to see the activity on Facebook and what we're doing and what we're trying to do, and donations started to come in, which was awesome. And essentially, what this turned into is we kind of evolved from a fishing forum and a guide volunteering a trip for a veteran +1 to an actual organization that took the veterans out fishing, provided guides to take these veterans out fishing and to pay for their weekend, essentially. I always talk about Lake of the Woods a lot, and that trip to me is near and dear. That was actually Fishing with Vets' first trip that we ever did as an organization for a weekend. We brought them all up. We had guides up for us. We had some swag to give out to the veterans, and we've been going there ever since. The same place, Wheeler's Point Resort. It's like I said, it's the staple of our organization. We continue to go there. We will always go there. The first year we went, we brought 10 veterans and 5 guides. And this past year we made it a little smaller, which brought 30 veterans out. So 30 veterans, 15 guides. We try to do a 2-to-1 veteran to guide situation, just so there's 2 veterans on the boat and they can talk and mingle and feel more comfortable and stuff. We've been going on for roughly 8 years, going strong. We got some pretty exciting opportunities coming up too. We got a guy moving to Florida. I'm not going to go too much into this, but stay tuned. There's probably going to be some fun things in Florida coming up.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm on. I want to go.
Yep.
Me. I'm in.
Especially February. Come February,
Yes.
I'll be ready to get out.
Yes. Long weekend.
Yep.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
So how many trips right now would you say you do a year? And are some of those trips ice fishing as well?
Yeah. So essentially we have 8 trips that are kind of staples of our organization that we do every year. It's pretty much in the same month. We do kind of work around the weekends every once in a while, but it's pretty much on the same month. So what we're doing this year is January, we're doing a Red Lake trip. Lucky for us, we have friends that are part of the Ice Castle Owners Group here. ICOG is their acronym for them. And they are generous enough where they actually bring ice castles out for us, which is totally awesome. It's an experience that many people don't get to have. I kid you not, actually 7 years ago was my first time ever seeing an ice castle. And I walked into one of our board members, 2 of our board members actually, Joe Tackerberry and Bob Stearns, and they had their ice castles up there. And they had a bigger TV in their ice castle than I did in my house at the time, which was pretty cool. We actually sat out there, we fished, we caught a lot of walleyes, and we were watching wild games. So it was a pretty cool experience, and just getting the veterans out there and having that opportunity as well. It's people don't realize what they're coming into, and they're rolling into a 28-foot ice castle that is bigger than a lot of our apartments probably were in our first couple of years of being adults.
So let's talk. I want to explain a little bit about first the Wild. The Wild, you guys, is Minnesota's hockey team for the NHL, National Hockey League. So pretty much hockey is in our blood here in Minnesota. So you got to watch either the Wild or the Gophers, and which are Minnesota teams. If you're a Badger or North Dakota State, we're going to have a problem because they're not in our state and they're not our team. So anyhow, but hockey is huge here. So when he's talking about when you're out ice fishing, I want to talk about this ice castle that he's talking about. An ice castle is a trailer that you hook to your truck and you pull up onto the ice and you go inside of it. And these ice castles are just like an apartment. It's like sitting in an apartment on the ice instead of actually sitting in a trailer or in a pop-up tent to drill holes in and fish inside of. You're actually sitting like on a couch, and you got a refrigerator, you got a stove, you got an oven top, you've got
fireplaces.
You got fireplaces. You got big screen, the 60-inch flat screen TVs on there with the antenna on top. I mean, it's just unbelievable what people get nowadays. So it's a little bit different than roughing it back in the day, but it is a way to really experience ice fishing.
It is. I had 2 of my friends come up from that I served with in the Marine Corps. One was from Arizona and one was from California, and they came up for this ice fishing trip. And I kid you not, Dave, I don't know why, it's -30. Every year we hold this trip on Red Lake. I kid you not, it's been like this for 5 years running now. And it was comical to watch these 2 come in from, -30 is unheard of to them. And they walk out and picking them up from the airport, and they're just like in shock. Their eyes are like, "Oh, it hurts! It hurts!"
Yeah. Where's my friend Ilsa at? Ilsa, you got to come here and experience the 30 below zero, and then the 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts that come with that blowing into your chest when you step outside.
Yep. It will take your breath away. It definitely will.
Brian wants to know, do you troll for walleye? Where I walleye fished in Idaho, it was a large reservoir. We could troll about 10 feet from shore with a wetting rig?
Okay. Yeah, there's a number of techniques I use for walleyes. It's kind of a seasonal thing. So kind of here in Minnesota, we actually have seasons that we can fish for walleye. So that's usually the second weekend of May. The fish are actually pretty hungry at this time, and it can be pretty easy catching. My favorite way to catch them in the early spring, late or early summer is a simple bobber and a leech with a hook. That's actually one of my favorite ways to do it because it kind of brings you back to your kid days, or you're out there with the bobber and a worm and you're catching fish, and it's just, I don't know, everybody I take out and we bobber fish, they get a great joy out of it.
Lighted bobber at night. Lighted bobber at night where you see it and it starts to go down under the water and it starts to go away. Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yep, exactly. And I love doing that. And that's what I do on my night trips when I'm out guiding. I do my night trips out, and that's what I'll put out, a lighted bobber. And it's so fun to just see that lighted bobber just all of a sudden drop down. I do a lot of trolling. It depends. I guess when we're sometimes I take trolling into a huge perspective of whether that's trolling crankbaits or trolling like night crawlers behind a spinner. But yes, that's probably once mid-June, July comes, the bobber fishing pretty much stops and it's on to trolling. I personally like to use night crawlers. I actually stay away from night crawlers, the actual night crawlers. I go to plastics a lot. One thing it helps is the perch and the sunfish love to attack those night crawlers. And by the time you're actually 20 feet of moving, you're going to have about an inch left of a night crawler left because perch and sunfish just pick at it the whole time. Yeah. And a lot of times those fish just aren't big enough to catch on a hook. So I go to a plastic presentation and pretty much my favorite spot to fish for walleyes is right on weed edges or above those weed lines. So I'm looking for 6 feet of water between weeds and the surface, and I'll just basically cast out and let that rig ride. And that's how I catch my walleyes a lot.
Yeah, Brian says night crawlers on a wedding ring rig is my favorite. I'm not a crankbait fan.
Yeah, me neither. Crankbait's boring. My dog's saying hi to you guys.
I'm not big on crankbaits. I mean, definitely they're good to have in the tackle box because that is a great way to get them, especially when you go to places like Devil's Lake. If you can get close to shore where they feed and all that, it's great to run through there. But yes, I am huge on leech and a bobber or night crawler and a bobber, depending on where you're at. Definitely for that. So totally.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't mind more of a jerkbait type of fishing. I love doing that where you're actually casting and retrieving that jerkbait. That's a ton of fun. But yeah, just putting the rod in the rod holder and going can be pretty boring, especially if you're using something like lead core. You got a 9-foot rod and 16-pound lead core test. You're basically using a 2x4 to catch a 19-inch fish.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. This is a doggo-friendly channel, so don't worry about the dog interrupting. We all love dogs here. And then we need a Delight Cafe fishing trip. Everybody's starting to think that we should plan a trip. Everybody's in, so you're going to have to take us all out to go fishing. So
I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, get us all going. So in the next calendar year, how many trips do you have on the calendar?
Yep, right now we have, I believe, we have 8 of them. So we got Red Lake coming up. I actually got to count them. It changes every year. So we have Red Lake. Actually, we have way more than that. We got Lake of the Woods. We do Peshtigo Bay in northeast Wisconsin. Rainy River in April as well. So Peshtigo Bay and Rainy River will coincide same weekend. After that, we go to northeast South Dakota in May. June will be Lake Minnewaska, actually the Alexandria, Minnesota area. And that trip is solely for an all-women's veteran trip that we do.
Oh, cool.
And then after that, we go to Mille Lacs. And then we go to Devil's Lake. And then we go to Lake of the Woods in October. Now, we do have some smaller trips that we float in every once in a while, depending on schedules. I know Bob Stearns is doing a trip. He's one of our board members. He is setting up a trip to do an open water fishing trip on Red Lake, actually, in June. So that should be pretty fun. Todd Schnorr is another board member of ours, and he's trying to get something set up to go to the Apostle Islands. So they'll actually they'll take an airboat out there because it's not technically safe. So they have to use an airboat to get out to the actual islands, and they bring them out there and they stay on the island for the weekend, and they do some amazing fishing for trout, salmon. They catch some walleyes as well in there too. So those are some trips that are kind of in the works right now that we're getting built up. So through any given year, we're doing at least 8 up to 13, 14 trips.
Okay. Tell the listeners, the watchers, tell our folks that tune in how a veteran benefits from coming on one of these trips. I remember the story you told us about the old timers with the Vietnam vet and then the young guy in the golf cart. Those kinds of things happen, and this is a veteran channel, so we can talk about that story. I think we should share this type of experience that happens.
Yep. Well, one thing I guess in general questions, I love this story. It cracks me up all the time. But we get a wide variety of veterans. We've seen veterans from World War II to the War on Terror. We've had them all on our boats, and the experience is some people just really needed it. It's a good way to get away. It was calm, relaxing. We're not pushy. You got to do this. It's your weekend. That's how we look at it, and our guides understand that as well. And not to go over in extremes with it's your weekend, but we had a good, interesting situation happen a few years back. So being a bunch of guys on the board, we accidentally scheduled a trip on Leech Lake on Father's Day weekend. And our way of fixing that and adapting and overcoming, if you will, Dave, was to have a father and their child being a veteran as well. So father veteran, child veteran, go on this trip. They can fish together for the weekend, et cetera, et cetera. And we're lining up this trip, and I got a call from a lady who said her dad was a World War II veteran. And he was really interested in going on this trip. And I was like, well, he's going. And she's like, but I'm not a veteran. I'm like, but he's a World War II veteran. He's going. We can accommodate this. And then she goes, I'm sorry?
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yep. And then she goes, well, his brother's a Korean War veteran. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, he's going too. So they get invited on this trip, and it's our typical weekend Fridays. It's kind of a meet and greet. We get the veterans there, we get the guides there. They get introduced, paired up, how they want to start their day. Like I said, this is all about the veterans. We don't say you got to start fishing at a time. We leave that up to those veterans and those guides. They want to go out at 4 o'clock in the morning, they can go out at 4 o'clock in the morning. They want to go out at 9, they can go out at 9. We're fine with that. So typical day, Saturday was a good day out fishing. Did that for the day, had our group dinners. Me being the president of the organization, I always usually stay until every veteran's gone. Not to just to make sure everything was paid for, nothing's open balance type of thing. And we got done pretty early. It was kind of nice. And I went back to my room, went to bed, and wake up to the next morning to another board member coming up to me and going, we have a problem. And I was like, well, what's that? She goes, somebody stole a golf cart last night. And I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. I'm like, okay, let me at him. Like, who is it? They're going to pay. So we do some more investigating. And come to find out, it was actually the World War II vet, a Korean War vet, a Vietnam vet, and a Iraq vet that decided to take a joyride in a golf cart to the casino is where we believe they were going, because they were going in that direction. So that's the only thing I could think of. And come to find out, they actually got pulled over by a state trooper. We got video or picture evidence of that. So that was pretty cool. And come to find out is we keep going and we find out about these guys, the World War II, Korean War, Vietnam vet, and then the Iraq vet. We're talking to the Iraq vet, and he's like, they drove up and they said, get in. And he was like, well, what was I supposed to do? He's like, I saw a World War II hat, Korean War vet hat, and a Vietnam vet hat on. He's like, I got in.
We're like, tell you to get in, you get in.
Like, whatever. So we do some more investigating, and one of my board members, she knew a lot of the state troopers up in the area. She was a conservation officer, and they called the dispatch up, I guess. And dispatch gets on the phone, and we're kind of, she's talking to the person, and she goes, so did one of your troopers pull over a golf cart last night with a bunch of vets? And I could literally hear the laughter on the phone, not even being on the phone call with them.
Right.
Of this person that's in dispatch just rolling, oh, yeah. And kind of comes to the same conclusion of what I should have done and what the state trooper did. And he basically said, well, what was I supposed to do? It was a guy wearing a World War II vet hat, a Korean War vet hat, a Vietnam vet hat, and then the young kid that's just there like, I'm just here.
Right.
So
they made me come.
Yeah. So come to find out, we get back and we had flags set up along the roadway to get into the resort. Well, all the flags were removed and they were replaced with beer cans. And I'm like, something's not right here. And I go into the lodge and I talk to the manager and I'm like, I think you're missing beer. And he was adamant, no, we were not. And I'm like, yeah, you are. So he goes back, checks the cameras, comes back and goes, 12-pack of the Golden, 12-pack of Coors Light. So I just paid for the beer. I'm like, are we good? He's like, we're good. And he goes, next time I'm having a veterans trip, he's like, I'm pulling the keys out of the golf carts. And I was like, that's a fine idea.
Yeah, probably best.
Yep. But who would have thought? Who would have thought that it would have been the World War II vet that was, involved in this type of activity? At the time, he was 98 years old.
Right. Yeah, see, you never know what's going to come out of these veterans nowadays.
You don't. And trust me, in the almost 8 years we've been doing this, that was the one episode that we had. Other than that, like I said, most people are pretty grateful. I honestly think a lot of people are so excited for the fishing that people they go to bed early. They're ready to go. Like their number one initiative is to go up and go fishing for the day. Yeah. So, we have fun. Like I said, I am personally, I think us as an organization, we're pretty laid back and we want the trip to be about them, not about us and what we want to have happen. It's getting them out for an opportunity, have a weekend to just go out, have fun, low stress, no stress type of situation. One thing we do a lot too is if you're a veteran that has a service dog, you're more than welcome to come up. We are very open to service dogs and being in boats. The resorts we stay at are extremely accommodating to that as well. It's an opportunity for everybody. Like I said, we don't try to hustle and bustle people. It's pretty calm, pretty relaxed. Just go out, have a good time, be you.
That's awesome. Ilsa wants to know, what would you like to achieve in the next 2 years with your program?
Boy, the next 2 years, I definitely like to see some growth. Like I kind of brought up the Florida thing. We do have another opportunity that's in the works to kind of go out to Massachusetts and do some deep sea fishing out there as well. So I think really what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to go on a growth initiative and before COVID, we actually established what we called exotic trips, if you will. Brains plus alcohol plus golf carts. I love that.
Yeah, probably a good idea to take the keys.
Yeah. So actually what we did, one of our first exotic trips is we actually flew 2 veterans out to Colorado and went fly fishing in the mountains for 4 days.
Awesome.
We paid for their airfare, we did their lodging, their hospitality, everything they needed. And one of our board members, Aaron, who's our treasurer, it was his family that actually accommodated us with the cabin, and his cousin was our fishing guide. So they took us out, or they provided a cabin for us to stay up in the mountains. His cousin took us out fly fishing. It was really cool. But that's one of our biggest initiatives, is kind of a growth and getting into other states and really providing some of them exotic type of trips, whether it's deep sea fishing, fly fishing out in Colorado, Canada. Eventually, someday, we'd love to get some trips out there. Yeah, that's where I'd like to see us in 2 years. I think we got a really, really good fundraising opportunities that we have. Todd Schnorr, he's one of our board members. He does the Mud Fest up on the Iron Range every year. So that's basically a 4-wheeler drive that we do. We have a raffle program that we have, some silent auction stuff. Our other board member, Jason, who's our vice president, actually, an Army veteran, he does a softball tournament in Wadena the weekend after September 11th. I think we had 32 teams come and play this year, which was really cool because that's what these teams wanted to do. Their whole, the whole idea about it was come to support our organization, and to actually have that many teams come up to Wadena, Minnesota is incredible. The networking that we get, and the Mudfest is held in Chisholm, Minnesota. So for those not familiar, Chisholm's up in the Iron Range. It's about an hour and a half northwest of Duluth. I guess you could say small town America. And the sport that we get there is absolutely incredible. So, with growth, comes all the other added responsibilities that we need to do. Nothing's free. We as an organization don't try to live on free stuff. The folks that are out in Massachusetts, they're donating the stuff to us, but we're like, hey, we got to take care of the captain, his first mate. That if they have a first mate on this boat, we gotta provide something for this, and whether it's paying for gas or what, that's kind of our thing, and that's how we work. We try to get the community involved as much as we can through our organization and our trips, whether that's taking people out to eat for one night. Devil's Lake this past year, we went to Pizza Ranch. That was our night. That was our dinner for one of the nights. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we got thunderstormed out. And that was one of the reasons that we went, but it was like, hey, let's get out in the community and let's support the community as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I think in the next 2 years, I think our biggest thing is I would like to, hopefully you're hearing this first actually about Florida, kind of getting that going, getting that started, and then getting the Massachusetts thing going, and really try to get back into our exotic trips, if you will, and given those once in a lifetime opportunities. I think our normal trips are pretty darn good. Lake of the Woods is always a place that people want to go. Devil's Lake is another one. Northeast South Dakota has phenomenal fishing. Mille Lacs, unfortunately, there's a lot of controversy around Mille Lacs and what that lake is about, but still another fishery where a person can go out and catch a 30-inch walleye, 20-plus inch smallmouth, 40-plus inch pike, 51-inch muskie. Yeah. It's just a place that provides some great fishing, and it all depends on who you are as an individual. You go to Mille Lacs, unfortunately, you're not going to take a lot of fish home. They do have a protected slot, and it's usually about one fish you can bring home, and that's it. But you're going to go out there, you're going to catch a lot, and you're going to catch a lot of nice quality fish.
Yep. Mille Lacs is a huge lake here in Minnesota that is governed pretty heavily with restrictions because it's also spearfished and net fished by which tribe is it? Indian tribe that has the rights to fish mille lacs. I don't remember. Is it the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe?
Yes. Yep.
And so we're fishermen are competing against those types of standards and still trying to keep the fish population growing. So we have to the state mandates, the DNR mandates, these restrictions on how many fish you can actually keep when you fish, because they don't want to see it out fish and then there be no fish in the lake when it comes time for the rest of us to try and enjoy it. So got a question for you here. Brian wants to know if you'd be interested in some deep sea stuff in the Florida Keys. I know that he has a connection down there. He could probably work on getting you connected with that person down there, if it's who I think it is, Brian. And then we can get you some information and connect you with her. So you guys, I also want you to, I want to put out there, Brian also put here is your organization's website. Is it .org or is it .com?
It is .com.
It is .com. Just want to make sure.
Yep. So our website is under maintenance right now, so we are doing a lot of fixes and updating it.
Okay.
Our biggest platform is definitely Facebook. So Fishing with Vets, you can pretty much search Fishing with Vets on Facebook and it'll come right to us.
Okay.
But yeah, the Facebook, our website's under construction right now, under management and stuff. That's what we use for veterans to apply for trips. So yeah, it's pretty easy, but the Facebook page is by far the most detailing information that you'll find out about our organization, as far as pictures, how the event went, the trip went, et cetera, et cetera.
And then also fishingwithvets@gmail.com is how they can get information from you if they want to contact you.
Yep, and that goes directly to me. I actually do answer to that one. So yeah, that's a great way to get in touch with us.
So what does it take for a veteran to qualify to go on one of these trips with you? What kind of service or what type of documentation? What I'm getting at is, what does it take for them to be able to do this?
Yep. So you obviously want everybody to be discharged DD 214 type of style. We're not looking for, you don't have to be a wounded veteran. You don't need to be a veteran that has been overseas, has been in combat, has seen combat. Basically, anybody that served and has a DD 214 is our target. It's just our simple way of saying thank you for your time and your service, and it's a weekend opportunity for those people to get away and just have fun and relax a little bit.
So is this a once in a lifetime thing that you can only do once, or is this something that somebody like myself could do 8 to 12 trips a year? And
there's a lot of people that would like it to be that way. Unfortunately, it's our biggest thing. We do try our hardest to get as many veterans that haven't been on a trip with us before. That's our number one goal. And that's pretty much where it starts from there. Once that's done and we get our spreadsheet and we go through everything, we pick them first. And then after that, if we need to fill spots, so let's say we got 15 veterans that haven't been on a trip with us, we need 5 more. Then we go to kind of a random pick, and some of those people could have been on trips with us in the past as well. There's many people that have been fortunate enough to go on 4-5 trips with us. But that's our biggest thing. We really do try to focus on veterans that haven't been out with us before. The ironic thing is doing this for 8 years now, we're kind of running out of veterans that haven't been on a trip with us before.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting to the point where it's kind of, we just need to start off over kind of a clean slate and just start running it again.
I'll be one that goes on 8 or 12 a year.
There you go. We have people, and I tell people all the time, we do these trips. I talk to everybody that's there, and that's the number one thing I try to tell these guys, gals, is, I know this is what we tried to do, but I would definitely say put your name in for every trip that you want to go on.
Yeah.
Because there's a chance that you can still get picked. And that's the biggest thing. If there's anything that I would say to anybody right now who's watching, if you've been on a trip or if you haven't and you get picked to go on a trip, still put your name in. We're running low on veterans that haven't been on a trip with us before, and there's always opportunities. Some of the biggest things we have 5 or 10 veterans that we know we can call the day of a trip and they will come. Just because they've been on the trips with us before, they know what we're about. And if we get somebody who drops, unfortunately, relatively close to the trip, those are the people that we'll call and will be, hey, can you come up to Lake of the Woods this weekend?
Right. So let's talk a little bit about your needs. Do you have any needs for volunteers, financial, any of that type of stuff?
Yep. So volunteers, we do pretty well. Our guides are people that we try to get consistently because they understand our program, what we're doing as an organization. So we try to get them as much as possible. But I think what we need to do is start getting more volunteers involved. Our guides are our biggest set of volunteers that we have. Like I said, if we have a trip, we do 2 to 1. So it's even if we're doing 10 veteran trip, we still have 5 guides coming with us. We try to fill those ranks with some of us on the board and on our field staff, but not everybody can make it. Some people are solely devoted to winter fishing for our organization as well. So there's a lot of people that come out and volunteer their time to be a guide. One thing we do as an organization is we always go back to the year prior, and then we ask those guides if they're interested in guiding again for this year. If so, then they'll be asked to come again. And if not, then that's when we'll kind of go off and we'll find volunteer people to help us out.
Okay.
Financial, money's always a thing that's weird for me to talk to, but being a nonprofit organization, obviously we can't run on, the only Marine in the board's good looks and charms. So, money is always a huge thing for us. I can honestly say, being the president and knowing my treasurer for 25 plus years of my life, everything we do goes to our veterans, to our trips. Pretty much the only expense we have is keeping our website running and insurance on our trailer. And that's about it. We devote everything to our trips, getting veterans out, and that's our number one thing. We do have, I'm terrible with these apps. There's Venmo, and then there's the other one, the big one. PayPal. We have links and stuff for people to get up on that. But yeah, donations are what makes our organization run. Obviously, yep. Volunteers are a huge thing. Being on shows like this is a huge thing as well. But at the end of the day, having the funds to be able to do the things that we do is huge.
Do you need any guides for Devil's Lake, North Dakota?
As of now, I don't know. That would be something that we would start figuring out probably in about May of next year of 2022. Okay. That's when we'll start figuring out where we are as guides. I know I will be there next year, so there's one guide boat that's opening up at least. But yeah, it's I would think in the May timeframe is when we're going to start doing that.
It's a possibility that I'd be able to do that, depending on the dates. I've fished that lake a lot, so I know where some good spots are.
Yeah. It's so fun to fish. Lake.
Yeah.
I gotta take my wife out every time though and go white bass fishing.
Yeah.
She loves the white bass fish, and they're fun. They're a ton of fun to catch. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. Quick story about fishing out there. One afternoon, my father-in-law and my brother-in-law and I got in the boat, and we got out for the evening bite, and we were right under a power line on a rock pile, and we put 15 walleyes in the boat in 20 minutes.
I believe it.
It was that fast. I couldn't believe how fast it was. I mean, they're there. It was nuts.
Yep. So Devil's Lake is like Lake of the Woods. It's not uncommon to hear people get 50 up to 100 fish a day. Right. You can come up there. It's not uncommon at all. It's an amazing fishery, and how the sustainability keeps going is what impresses me the most.
Yeah.
Those lakes, they get pounded.
Yeah. And you're out there fishing, and the next thing you know, you're right next to a silo, or you're right over a farmhouse or a barn. You know what I mean? And you're like, holy crap, there's a combine underneath you. It's like, so
you think your eyes are playing tricks with you. What you see on the electronics, sometimes you're like, wait, what?
What was that? What is that?
A tractor?
No way.
Yep.
Yeah. The farm truck? What?
Yep. South Dakota can be the same way too, up in the northeastern part. There's a lake that we go to that literally there's a farm house with silo, everything, and the water goes up to about the second story of the farmhouse.
Yeah.
This is like crazy. What? Like, these lakes just get made.
Yep. They just make themselves. I don't know. The running water comes from somewhere.
Exactly.
So we're an hour into this thing. So why don't we start to try and wrap this up a little bit? Brian wants to know if we can bring significant others on the trip.
Some of the trips we do allow that. It depends. We used to not do it, and then we started to get into it a little bit more, especially when COVID started to come around. So there's, I don't want to say no, and I don't want to say yes. I mean, I think everything, like I said, we're semper gumby, as you would know, Dave.
Yep, always flexible.
Always flexible. Nothing set in stone, and we can definitely. I think there's a time and place where that can be something that we fit into one of our trips. Absolutely.
And I think part of it is, I think if you're going to do a trip, though, I think the best thing to do is to go by yourself. And the reason why I say that is because most people who are going to do these types of trips need somebody else in their life besides who they already have. And this gives you an opportunity to reach out, stretch out, and make other connections, and maybe find somebody else for somebody like me who has PTSD, gives me the opportunity to maybe find some other military veteran that's going through some of the same struggles or some of those same hardships or whatever, and be able to support one another. And it's easier to have those conversations when your significant other is not with you. And because they can meet you at a level that your significant other can't. And it's not that you and your significant other don't have a good relationship. It's just, unless your significant other has been where you've been, there's no way they can actually see eye to eye completely. So
I agree 100% with that. And that was kind of one of our purposes, was for these veterans to get out and meet some different people. I kid you not, there's been a lot of friendships created, not only through veterans, but also with the guides that they go out fishing with. Mm-hmm. A lot of these veterans have now become friends with these guides that they've had, and now they're just going out fishing for fun.
Right.
And that's our biggest thing is like I said, that's why we want to try to make this casual. We want people to go out. They want people to experience it. We want people to talk to one another. We just want people to hang out. That's all we want to do. And I think the most rewarding thing I get out of doing this is seeing these friendships established.
Yeah.
And that to me means everything in the world. We do big fish contests, and the veteran will get a fishing rod out of it. And that's cool, but it's the camaraderie that matters the most to me. And there's nothing better than sitting on Facebook and you're like, hey, those two, they went out as a veteran guide pair and they're out fishing right now.
Right.
Not involved with us. I'm like, that's awesome. That makes me happier than anything.
Yeah. We're going to have to get you to meet somewhere around the St. Cloud area, go to Briggs Lake or something and do a little ice fishing this winter with you, me, and Tyler, my boy. Briggs is one of my favorite spots to go to in the winter for the crappie bite. And you might be able to squeak a walleye or two out of there too. So
sure.
So I'd love to do that. Any last remarks or anything before we go for the show today?
I would just say, if you're a person, if you're a veteran that's interested in, in an opportunity to have a great weekend of fishing, look us up. Like I said, we're pretty laid back. We're pretty easygoing. There's no dog and pony shows involved with us. We want some pictures with you and fish, and that's about it. It's about coming up, having fun, and hanging out with your fellow veteran brother and sisters. So if you're interested, look us up, and we'd love to see you all out there.
And with that, I'm going to put you into the background here, and I'll have you go backstage. I'll pop on with you when I'm done with the show. Okay. And thanks for coming on, Jeremy. And we really appreciate having you here. And we look forward to this relationship that we started and be able to get you on here, talk a little fishing, talk a little stuff, and grow with us. And so that we can reach out to more veterans and get them some fun things to do besides sitting at home and staring at a television set. So,
right. I like it.
All right. All right.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
I'm going to put you in the background or in the backstage, and then I'll talk to you afterwards.
All right. Sounds great.
All right. All right, everybody. Warning to all civilians. Next week is going to be a crazy, crazy show. Don't be scared, but feed the Marines with caution. Just so you know, next week we're going to be doing a Marine Corps birthday show. It's going to be on November 10th, which is the 246th Marine Corps birthday for all of you who don't know. So get your stories prepared. Let everybody know that you were going to join the Marine or you thought about joining the Marines. But those of us who actually served in the Marines are going to be celebrating our birthday. So next week's going to be Bros, Beers, and BS on the Victor Tango show. We're going to have Brian Tracy, and we might bring a couple other jarheads on so that we can just swap war stories and have a good time. And we'd love you to hit us up on the comments and tell us what your thoughts are as we're talking on the show. Feel free to send emails if you got anything that you want to talk about on our show at the Victor Tango show. So please reach out to us if you have a topic for conversation and questions. Like I said, can be emailed to the Victor Tango show at gmail.com. Victor Tango show at gmail.com, folks. And with that, I'm going to say good night and hoorah! Semper Fi, everybody.